say two things. One, to you, Patricia, when I describe Patricia to people, I call her the incomparable Patricia Harty. And she's incomparable in any number of ways. She's a beautiful woman. She's got more energy than the Lord. You know, she doesn't take a break on the seventh day. She's always out there looking out for us, that is to say, Irish Americans. She's always networking with as many people as she can possibly network. And she's just absolutely delightful to be around. And for that, Patricia, we thank you. The second thing I wanted to say before I introduce Dr. Kevin White is congratulations to this year's, the folks that are being inducted this year into the Irish America Hall of Fame. I mean, every year I look back at the list, and it's just such an inspiring time, really, for us to see the kind of contributions that men and women of Irish American heritage are making across this great land of ours. And you said, if we love you, let's support you. I say we support you because there's plenty of other people out there that we can recognize who are doing great work on behalf of this country and the old country. And so to those of you that are inducted today, thank you so much for what you've done for both Ireland and America. So it's my honor to introduce my friend, Dr. Kevin White. Dr. White is the athletics director at Duke University, but so much more than that. I just came back from Ireland and did a little work at University College Dublin on James Joyce. And James Joyce I find to be almost unintelligible, to be honest with you. I mean, if anybody in the room would suggest to me that they understand James Joyce, I would challenge you to prove it to me. And we probably wouldn't have time to do it. But I did find one quotation that I found appropriate, both for Kevin and for us, and that is this. Joyce once said, "In the particular is contained the universal." And I actually wish I'd found that quotation before I studied Joyce, because it does say what Joyce was trying to say much more clearly than he does in his novels. And what he was saying is, you know, in each of us is a little piece of all of us. And if you look at his characters in his novels, you can see that every man comes clear. In the particular is contained the universal. And I would suggest to you that today this man, Kevin White, is an example of that. In the particular case of Kevin White is a bit of what's best in all of us. Kevin's accomplishments are well documented in the wonderful article in the magazine. Let me tell you some things that you don't know, that don't appear in the article. One is he's a man of faith. He's a man who is unabashedly proud of his Irish heritage. He's an American patriot serving on the U.S. Olympic Committee. I mentioned that he's the athletic director, and the athletic director is, of course, responsible for fielding quality winning teams for whatever school they happen to matriculate into. But in Kevin's case, he also tries to produce and successfully produces teams of young men and women who we can be proud of as citizens of our country, who have a notion not just for W's and L's, wins and losses, but also for the responsibility that they take on in representing their school and their country. He's an unbelievably dedicated husband. I actually can't speak for that. Jane could. Who's here with us. But he seems to me to be a great husband. I know he's a great father and a wonderful grandfather. He's genuinely humble, a leader who makes everyone around him better. He is a teacher, literally. He teaches a course at Duke, and he's got a doctorate in education. He's a terrific listener, which is not a trait you find often in people who achieve the kind of successes that he's succeeded. And he's a visionary. He's loyal and inclusive. He makes friends for life and cares more for their well-being than about his own well-being. In a moment, I predict, Kevin, we didn't coordinate this, but in a moment, I predict that Kevin will stand up here and give you 10 reasons why he doesn't deserve to be standing here today. I'll give you one reason why he should be. I'd like my kids to grow up like Kevin White. So let's celebrate his induction with something I found. Because they induct, could I have a drink of water there? Because I was inducted into the James Joyce Society, which I still, as I've admitted, don't understand what that means, they gave me special access to the Book of Kells. And in the Book of Kells, carefully folded, I found this. And I thought it would be appropriate to recite it for you as I introduce Kevin. And it's a song, shockingly. And the verse goes like this. Now it's Kevin in the hall, Kevin in the hall. He's a proud son of Donegal, our Kevin in the hall. But that's the chorus. If you know it, you can sing it. But here's the verses. 'Tis of a champion sportsman, this story I will tell. His name is Kevin White, and in Durham he does dwell. It was with the fightin' Dewhawks he began his wild career, and many a rival sportsman before him shook with fear. It's our Kevin in the hall. Kevin in the hall, he's a proud son of Donegal, our Kevin in the hall. One day at St. Joe's College, as Kevin he strolled down, he met with young Jane Garland, a mile outside of town. Young Jane, she knew his features, and she said, "Young man," said she, "your name is Kevin White, and you must come along with me." Now it's Kevin in the hall. Kevin in the hall, he's a proud son of Donegal, our Kevin in the hall. And as they moved across the land, this truth I will unfold. He made his rivals tremble, and he beat them to the gold. From Sun Devils to Blue Devils, fighting Irish in between. He simply is the very best that we have ever seen. Now it's Kevin in the hall. Kevin in the hall, he's a proud son of Donegal, our Kevin in the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kevin White.
Well, folks, if I wasn't intimidated, I am now. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Before I start, let me introduce my best friend, my spouse of 45 years. We enjoy 5 children, and all of which will be married, our last one in April, and our 12 grandchildren. We're currently 24 strong and expecting number 25 in October or something like that. I don't keep track of these things. Our head coach, Jane White, of our family. And then over to my right, your left, all the way over, I have 2 phenomenal colleagues, friends, and extended family members, actually immediate family members, Nina King and Rick King, who work with me at Duke, and I'm just so thrilled and honored. They surprised us here today, and we're blown away by your participation, so thank you for being with us. Thank you. Nina and I actually teach an MBA sport business class together. And then lastly, before I begin, Marty, you are a piece of work. I love you. I mean, Deanie, he's incorrigible. I don't know what to say about this guy, but you two are an American treasure. It's an amazing, what a run the 2 of you had, and I say the 2 of you purposefully. It's amazing the impact you've had on our country. And as an Irish American, a very proud Irish American like everybody else in this room, I know we share that sentiment. So thank you for all you've done. You've done God's work. Thank you. Patricia and Neil, the committee, somebody had way too much Guinness or something at a committee meeting to put me in front of you people today. I have never been more honored, more proud, and quite frankly, more humbled. I have never been. This is an incredible moment for me. And when I say that, it's the moment I'm feeling, the moment I'm in. Mike Krzyzewski uses an expression all the time. We've got to get our kids to climb up into the moment. I'm in the moment, trust me. And the moment for me speaks to the fact that I'm not just here representing myself. That's the last thing I'm representing. I'm representing our immediate family, and I'm representing my ancestral family. And I know they're all here with me, and that gives me goosebumps as I stand in front of you today. I would tell you that I was thinking about this on a jog, and at 66 years old, I barely run forward. I'm almost going backwards. But I was on a jog not recently, and I was thinking, what in the heck can I tell these fine people? And it occurred to me, maybe I would borrow a little bit of a toast that occurred in the epic film, The Titanic. That spoke most vividly to Irish emigration, and if you'll bear with me, I remember a scene vividly, and I'm going to badly paraphrase it, but Jack Dawson, the infamous Jack Dawson, is in steerage, and he gets invited to a dinner up on the first-class deck, and as Jack comes up and into the dinner, he's asked to make a toast, and he, without going through the entire toast, the genesis of the toast was, just last night, I slept under a bridge, and now I'm here toasting champagne with you fine people, as I remember it. Well, that's quite like the way I feel today. I can tell you that. I'm surprised I'm not at some New York deli by myself having lunch. I can't believe I'm here with all of you, and quite frankly, speaking to all of you. I would tell you, when I read about the fellow inductees and had the opportunity, like all of us, to kind of soak in what's just transpired. And I have to tell you, it's amazing. What a group of people. So Patricia and Neil, I don't know who I owe, who I need to write a check to, but for some reason I'm standing in front of you and I can't figure that out, but I'm working on it. My favorite general, my favorite American, spoke a little bit about James Joyce, and I've been thinking about James Joyce as of late. When I think back to Ulysses, and he's kind of he speaks to the point that life is the great teacher, and that's pretty profound to me. And I think I've been informed by my life, by the life I've had, by not only my immediate family, my immediate responsibilities, but certainly my ancestral family. So our journey is probably not unique to the other Irish American journeys that are in this room, but it is personal, and it is emotionally personal. So very quickly, it was 1902 that my grandparents left Dunlo, Donegal, and it was Mariah Boyle and Patrick O'Donnell. And they came across with their singular suitcase, and I'm sure as they arrived at Ellis Island, and my God, by the way, thank God there wasn't a wall east of Ellis Island, or I wouldn't be here with you this afternoon, and you probably wouldn't be in this room as well. As they arrived, I'm certain that there were other ethnic groups in line as they came through passage, and I suspect there might have been a Polish group, and I've thought about this on that jog. I suspect that they probably bumped into a family with a name that was pretty hard to pronounce, maybe Krzyzewski. And so maybe it was the O'Donnell, Boyle, Krzyzewski, and others. But again, thank God we didn't have a wall because none of us would be here. Let me just say that our family then came into Brooklyn, and my grandfather was an Irish speaker, had no ability at all to speak English, and which was kind of true to the times in Dunlo. And of course, it was the time of no Irish need to apply in the early 1900s. And I can tell you, my grandmother was then a maid and a nanny in Brooklyn. And after about 2 years of unemployment, they kind of found their way up with the rest of the Irish community to the coal mine town of Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. And my grandfather was a coal miner. Of course, there weren't a lot of need. There weren't a lot of opportunities for a nanny or a maid in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, because there wasn't a lot of resource. It was kind of an impoverished community, to say the least. And so my grandmother, who was a very skilled Irish step dancer, again, Mariah Boyle, became O'Donnell once they got here. And I can tell you that she taught Irish step dancing in the apartments of the places that they lived. And they kind of garnered a lot of recognition. And all of a sudden, she made a contact with some good sisters in the Bronx. And she ferried kids from Wilkes-Barre, Scranton down to the Bronx, and then they tried out for the Rockettes. And so my grandmother had a big hand in producing a lot of Rockettes from Irish step dancing. My mother and my aunt were two of her first pupils. And so my mother danced with the Rockettes for about a decade till I was born. And in the second half of that decade, she sang with all the big bands in New York, and with Tommy Tucker and Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, had Danny Kaye, and she was kind of the Irish, the woman, the associate performer in a lot of those acts. So when you think about where we came from Dunlow, Donegal, by the way, population in 1900 was just about 1,000. Today it's grown all the way up to something like 4,000. It's amazing where we've come from. And so my ancestral family has had not a lot to do, everything to do with who I am. I think back to the old country, as Marty phrased it, and a lot of my ancestors were teachers and master teachers, by the way. We're very proud of that distinction. Sister mentioned that earlier, actually. And I can tell you that when I came and then went to obviously to school. I grew up on Long Island. I'm the first high school graduate in our family, and then the first person in our family, our extended family, to have an opportunity to go to college. And I can tell you, when I think about who I am and what opportunities I've had, and I've been so ridiculously fortunate over all these years, I think I live at the intersection of education and entertainment. Education comes from the old country. Entertainment comes from Roxy Theater, then Radio City, by the way. And so I think I come at that intersection, and I think I'm there naturally. And by the way, I live in a neighborhood called Sport. And Sport is at the intersection of entertainment and education. And so I think I'm in the right place. And again, I kind of take that back to my ancestors. Last thing I'll tell you, and I was listening carefully to Dr. Watson, and he mentioned about Irish-American leadership. And Nina King, who's with me, my colleague today, and I teach this MBA sport business class, and I can tell you we think a lot about leadership, because sport is about leadership. We're in the leadership development business. We got 650 kids at Duke, 27 sports, and sport's the medium. The end game is we're developing leaders, and we know that, we feel it, we believe it. And so we think a lot about it. And I think about the characteristics of leadership. We've distilled all that over all these years, Nina and I and others before Nina. And it gets down to maybe 4 characteristics, okay? And not to get too pontifical or too deep into this, but there's like 4 characteristics of leadership. 1, a really good leader needs to be empathetic. You've got to be able to put yourself in somebody else's position. 2, they need to be task-oriented. And if they're not, they better surround surround themselves with people that can button up, can finish, can close. 3, they need to be situational, adaptable, and flexible. And 4, they better be passionate and they better be intense, or nobody's going to follow you. When I think about those 4 traits, I'm not surprised that Irish America is leading this country. Those are 4 for 4 Irish characteristics, in my opinion. Empathy, task orientation, flexibility, adaptability, situational, and passionate and intense. And when I think about that, and I think about where our country is today, which is a little upside down, where the world is, which is quite a bit upside down as well, I'm hoping that all the Irish Americans in this room will continue to do what we need to do to move everything forward. So back to Jack Dawson. At the end of his toast, Jack came back and said, before he concluded his toast, he raised his glass and he said, make each and every day count. So my thing to all of you and to me and to all of us in the Irish American community, let's make each and every day count. God bless you. I'm so proud. Sláinte.